Welcome to iAdvocate, a podcast series on the public policy process developed by the Emergency Medical Services for Children National Resource Center. This series will equip you with information and strategies to affect legislative change at the federal, state, and local levels. While many of the examples used in this series refer to the federal policymaking process, most of the tools and tips are also applicable at the state and local levels. In addition to taking this training, we encourage you to download and view the Resource Center's Public Policy Primer, which will supplement the content discussed in this series. In this fourth lesson, you will learn how to apply the tips and tricks for communicating with legislators learned in previous lessons. Specifically, you will view a series of mock visits with a policymaker. One video will demonstrate an incorrect way to conduct a legislative visit, while the other will demonstrate a correct way. Let's watch the first video, and afterwards we will discuss it. Remember to keep in mind the lessons previously learned.
Oh, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Congresswoman Belly.
Roshni Bimani, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Rima Patel, nice to meet you.
Great, please have a seat.
Thank you.
Looks like you're running a little bit late. Your appointment was scheduled for 10 o'clock and it looks like it's about 10:15, so hopefully we'll have enough time to get through everything you wanted to discuss today.
Well, thank you so much for meeting with us.
Sure.
I'm Rima Patel.
I'm Roshni Bimani, emergency medical technician for about
Milwaukee County.
the last 5 years in Milwaukee
we're
County.
Here today to talk to you about the
Emergency
Medical
Medical
Services Program.
EMSC.
Great.
With the support of the EMSC program, we are working on getting pediatric equipment on ambulances.
In the county?
In the county. Specifically, what is happening is that pediatric patients don't get the care they need in emergency medical services situations. And so specifically in our county.
Did you need to step out for a second or?
Hello.
Oh.
As Dr. Patel was saying, in Wisconsin, children don't always get the care that they need in an emergency situation. So with the support of the EMSC program, we're working to make sure that ambulances have the correct pediatric-sized equipment that they need and patient safety issues in the ambulance as well as...
So specifically, as I was saying, in Milwaukee County, we have patients that have respiratory distress. And with the support of the EMSC program, we're working to make sure ambulances have proper airway equipment.
Great.
And so we would like your support in reaching our goal and progressing further. You know, we have made good progress, but you know, with your support, we can go further.
Great. Well, first of all, again, thank you so much for coming in. Clearly, you're both very passionate about the work you do. And it's great to see that the children of Wisconsin have such strong and passionate advocates. I have some small children of my own, and we're in the state fairly often, so it's good to know that if one of them encounters an emergency situation, they'll get the care they need. You've also probably read, however, that in the last several months, Congress is facing a lot of fiscal constraints, and we've had to make a lot of tough decisions, and there are some programs like the EMSC program
I really think you should make EMSC your priority. You just said you have 3 small children of your own, and we want to make sure that your children, as well as everyone else's children, are taken care of in an emergency situation. Besides, you were elected to represent me in my interests, so you should really make EMSC your priority.
Well, Ms. Bimani, clearly you're very passionate about this issue. It would be helpful to me if you could explain a little bit more about the EMSC program. Not only the work it's doing in Wisconsin, but also generally, what is the EMSC program? In addition, Dr. Patel, you mentioned this ambulance equipment project you're working on. If you could give me a little bit more background on what specifically you're trying to do in getting the airway equipment onto the ambulances, and what are your exact goals? Where are you in meeting those goals, and what can I do to help you?
Sure. The EMSC program does a lot of stuff in a lot of states, and I don't have all of the answers, but I did bring this information packet for you that has pretty much everything you need to know.
Yeah, that's a lot of information.
It has everything in there. So
as
for the ambulance project, I know that my specific EMS agency is doing great, has made great progress over the last 2 years, but I can't speak for all of them, but all the information is right there in that packet. So whenever you have a few minutes, you can take a look.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for meeting with us. It's been a great meeting, and we hope that you'll support EMSC.
Well, sure, and thank you for coming in. This is certainly a lot of information, so hopefully I'll find everything I need in here, and this has really been an interesting meeting.
Now that you have viewed the first video, let's discuss what was incorrect. First, Dr. Patel and Ms. Bhamani arrived late to their appointment, and both failed to apologize to Congresswoman Belly. Second, Dr. Patel and Ms. Bhamani did not designate a spokesperson prior to the meeting and begin to talk over each other. Also, as Dr. Patel begins discussing why they are here, her cell phone rings and she answers it. As you can see, both Dr. Patel and Ms. Bhamani did not plan ahead. There is no outline of talking points or a script they can both work from. Without this, you'll notice there is repetition between Dr. Patel and Ms. Bhamani. As Dr. Patel finishes her phone call, she not only interrupts Ms. Bhamani, but repeats the importance of EMSC. As the video progresses, Ms. Bhamani is irritated because Congresswoman Belly does not consider EMSC a top priority. No matter what the legislator's position may be, never try to leverage the fact that you voted for them in an election or gave them a political contribution to expect support for your cause. You should always be respectful of the policymaker's opinion, even if they do not agree with yours. As we near the end of the meeting, Dr. Patel and Ms. Bhamani admit they do not have the answers to all of her questions, but do not indicate they will follow up at a later time. Instead, Ms. Bhamani hands Congresswoman Belly an extremely large packet of EMSC-related materials, expecting her to find her own answers. The group also fails to provide business cards in case the Congresswoman or her staff have future questions. Remember, it is your responsibility to follow up with any answers to questions you might not know, and any additional materials requested, as well as to provide a way for the legislator or his or her staff to contact you. Now let us look at the correct way to conduct a legislative visit with the policymaker. Again, remember to keep in mind the lessons previously learned.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Congresswoman Belly.
Roshni Bhamani, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you as well. Please have a seat.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming in this morning. I know my scheduler told you that my morning is pretty tight, so I'm very happy that we were able to get you in, and I really appreciate that you're a couple minutes early to make sure we have enough time to discuss everything you wanted to get through today.
Well, thank you so much for meeting with us. I'm Reena Patel. This is my colleague, Roshni Bhamani.
Great.
I've actually, I'm an emergency physician in Milwaukee County, and she is an emergency medical technician.
Wonderful.
She's been practicing for about 5 years
Wonderful.
now. We're actually here today to talk to you about the Emergency Medical Services for Children program.
Okay.
And the importance of it. And Ms. Bhamani will begin by telling you that.
Great.
Sure. Having been an EMT for the past 5 years, I've really come to see that the Emergency Medical Services for Children program is an integral part of our community.
Great.
Children don't always get the care that they need in an emergency situation, so with the support of the EMSC program, we're working to make sure that ambulances have the correct pediatric-sized equipment that they need, and patient safety issues are taken care of from the ambulance all the way through the emergency department, as well as a number of other projects. Specifically in Milwaukee County, we've seen a rise in the number of pediatric respiratory distress cases.
I've read a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we're actually working to, with the support of the EMSC program, working to make sure that every ambulance in the county of Milwaukee has the correct pediatric airway management equipment that they need to care for those patients.
That's great.
So in Wisconsin, these patients that are not being treated for respiratory distress is affecting the care that we provide in our emergency departments.
I can imagine.
Fortunately, with the support of the EMSC program, we're able to do research on best practices in treating respiratory distress.
Wow.
And today we'd like your support in reaching our goal and going further. We have made good progress, but we have a long way to go, and we would like your support.
Well, first of all, thank you again for coming in. I know it's not a quick trip to get to DC, so I really appreciate you taking the time to come out here. You're obviously both passionate about what you do, and it's great to know that the children of Wisconsin have both of you as advocates. I have some small children of my own, and we're in Wisconsin most of the time, so it's reassuring to know that if one of them does experience an emergency, hopefully they will get the care they need. You've probably also read, however, that right now Washington is facing a lot of budget constraints. And there are some great programs like the EMSC program that we may have to make some hard decisions on. In fact, we may have to look at alternative streams of funding to make sure that the projects you're both working on can continue, because we certainly don't want that progress to stop. But we may have to rethink the way that we fund and support those programs.
We definitely understand the budget constraints that Washington is facing right now, but we also know that you have 3 small children of your own, and we want to make sure that your children, as well as everyone else's children, are cared for in an emergency situation. And actually right now, the EMSC program is the only source of federal funding for the initiatives that we're working on.
That's interesting.
Are there any questions that you have for us that maybe we can help change your mind?
Sure. If you could maybe tell me a little bit more about the EMSC program. I'm not overly familiar with it. So if you could tell me a little bit more about the work it's doing in Wisconsin and also across the nation. And then specifically, Ms. Bhimani, you mentioned your airway equipment project. If you could tell me a little bit more about that, what kind of progress has been made at the county-wide level, and then maybe in some of the individual EMS agencies towards increasing the number of equipment on the ambulances.
Sure. So in terms of the ambulance project, in Milwaukee County as a whole, we've increased the percentage of the ambulances that have that equipment from 25% to 40% over the last 2 years. So significant progress, but still a long way to go. In my agency specifically, we're at about 45% of ambulances carrying that equipment, and again, still a long way to go. I don't have the information on all of the agencies, but I can definitely get back to you with that information.
That'd be really helpful. Thank you.
So again, we will follow up. However, for now, we have this fact sheet, several fact sheets. One is on the Emergency Medical Services for Children program, explaining, what the program is, and also are some research data that we've collected on my program on the best practices, as well as Ms. Bhimani's ambulance project.
Great.
We've also included our business cards in case if you'd like to contact us after the meeting.
Thank you so much. This is exactly what I needed. So thank you again for coming in, and hopefully after I look this over, I will be able to help you out.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Now that you have viewed the second video, let's discuss what was correct. The group arrived on time, and Dr. Patel was the designated spokesperson. Although there were differing opinions, everyone was respectful and polite towards each other. They gave their full attention to the Congresswoman and were not distracted by cell phones or other electronic devices. The group offered to follow up with additional information as requested. At the conclusion of the meeting, the group thanked Congresswoman Belly for her time and provided a simple one-page fact sheet and business cards. Thank you for joining us for this lesson of iAdvocate. To learn more about the concept discussed in this lesson, please refer to the Public Policy Primer, a guide on the legislative process and impacting change at the federal, state, and local levels, available free for download from the National Resource Center website.